Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for joining in. Today, I have my client Louise with us. She's going to share a little bit about her journey. So before we get started, if you could tell us who you are, where you live, and what you do to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Louise. I live in Kitchener. I've lived here my whole life, except when I went away to university. And I work for the Ontario government. I work specifically for the Ministry of Agriculture. So yeah, I've been home for the last 2.5 years, but slowly working my way back to the office, which is in Guelph.
Yeah, and that's a big change for sure.
Yes, yes.
I'm hearing that
nice
from a lot of
ways.
people.
Some ways it's okay, but takes a little more organization.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Okay, so where were you with your health, fitness, and happiness before joining the program? And then why did you decide to look for a coach or choose the Balanced Bodies program?
Yeah, so I have always cared about what I've eaten and getting, a reasonable amount of exercise because, I'm not naturally thin. So I need to kind of always be conscious of it. And that started, back when I was 16 years old. So I have always had that as a part of my life. But when the pandemic hit, I think I hit a bit of a rut. I felt like food was the only reward that we could give ourselves during that time, and we were trying to support local restaurants and we couldn't go anywhere. And so I just feel like we kind of got in a rut of eating not as healthy as we normally do. We also weren't nearly as active. I used to easily get tons of steps in just going to my office and back. I parked quite far away from my building. And so just, when our house became the only thing we could be in, I feel like my activity level went down, our eating got worse, we drank more alcohol than we normally do. And I just, after almost 1.5 years of that, well, a good 1.5 years, about 1.5 years, because I joined in September of 2021. So I couldn't do it anymore. It was really making me sad. Like you say, what was your happiness? And it was not great. I was down about it, but I didn't feel like I had the energy to kick my own butt back in gear. I have done multiple times for myself, but I just didn't have it in me after COVID.
Yeah.
So then I know Carrie, and I have followed Carrie for, I don't know, a couple years at least, maybe 5 years. That time I was for a long time on social and through the gym phase and all that. And I just always, it resonated with me what she would say, what your post would say and what your clients were achieving, etc. So when I found myself in this rut and kind of acknowledged that I probably didn't have it in me to do it on my own, which took a lot for me to come to that conclusion, I reached out to Carrie and I actually saw the perfect post. It was like, are you in a rut? Do you need someone to be accountable for too? And I'm like, yes. So I reached out. I was a bit hesitant to do it because I knew that it was a commitment that was going to take some effort. And so I was a little bit apprehensive, but I did it and we had a good chat and I signed up.
Yeah. And yeah, you did awesome throughout the program too. So I'm curious though, was there anything that sort of held you back? I know you said something about, it was hard for you to admit that you needed the accountability, but was there anything else that you were like, a little skeptical about before joining, unsure about?
Well, I think it was just, again, I wasn't happy with my weight, but I also know that I love to eat, that does bring me like some sort of joy. And I just was like, I'm not sure, like, it's not like the pandemic was over. And so I wasn't sure if I could handle just another thing to do and be serious about, right? I mean, we've been through homeschooling, we'd been through so many things that pulled you in all directions. So I think my main hesitation was, do I have the time for me to do this? And I talked with my spouse and he was very supportive of it. And, basically, if you don't make the time, you'll never have the time. There's no great time. And for me, right after the summer was a good time, was as good a time as any, because I feel like, you get more serious about things. You're back at a normal routine. And I decided it was the time because, again, there's never going to be the perfect time to make a big change, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that you said that because it's true. It's when you're ready, you're ready. It's not like, oh, I'm going to wait a month, or, you know, when you got to feel it and you felt it. It was like, no, I need this now. Right. Okay. So you started in September, you did the 90 days, you flew through them, you were awesome. Can you touch on some of the specific results or benefits that you experienced since joining the program, whether it was physically, mentally, or emotionally?
Sure. I had a goal. I mean, one of our exercises that we needed to do was to kind of set a written down, you know, in black and white kind of goal for ourselves. And I had written down that I wanted to lose 25 pounds, you know, by being conscious of what I ate, by moving a lot, by going to bed earlier, you know, all the things that I was going to try to use to make that happen. And yeah, at the end of the 3 months, I was exactly at that. I lost 25 pounds. It felt great. I think the big thing was that I started doing a lot of weight, like not a lot, but I started to do weight training, which I had always been a big cardio person. So I have a home gym and I have a great Octane elliptical that's amazing, and a professional grade stair climber. And I've always liked them, but I've always done them. So it took a lot for Carrie to coax me out of comfort. That was probably the biggest thing, right? Like I was on board from the beginning, but I was like, no, I'm working out. I'm sweating a lot. You know, I know it's good for me. I don't want to change that. And I did in the end, probably about 6 weeks in. It took a bit. And I started doing the weight training with Carrie online. And I mean, it's hard, but I enjoy it. And I knew I needed it. Like now that I've done it, and it's been, what is it? I don't know. What's it been? 7 months?
Yeah.
8 months, 7 or 8 months, 8 months, I guess. Basically, it's today the 13th, 14th. It's been 8 months.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've been doing it probably for about 6 months now, the actual weight training, because I've continued with that. And, you know, I noticed a difference. My arms look better. I'm stronger. I needed a change in physical activity routine, and I wouldn't have done it. Like I would not have done it without Carrie, because I had this home gym that I felt was doing what it needed to do. But now that I'm doing other things, I realize, you know, I can still use it, but it's not the only thing, and it needs to be more varied than I was doing.
Yes. And I think the big thing for you too was you were stuck on like, you know, 50 crunches, and you were doing 25 squats, and then you were doing 30 minutes on the elliptical. Like that was your little mini routine. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing weights, but it wasn't the weights that you need to build up your muscles. Like you're not jacked by doing it, right? Like we're not jacked, but we're lifting heavier weights so that you have more lean muscle mass, which helps in the whole fat loss process, right?
Well, and I remember asking you, like, what weight should I get? And I was thinking like 3, 5, and 8. Like, I don't know. That's what my like mind was at. And you were like, well, you know, you'll definitely need like 10, 12 and a half, and 15, you know, and maybe you want to get 20 or 25 for down the road. And I was like, what? Anyway, I now use the 15s and 20s all the time. So
awesome.
Yeah. But that took a lot, you know, that took some time to get to. And I have been sore after your routines, and I have like wanted to cry. But I always feel great when they're done. Like I say, I always think it's 45 minutes out of my day, and I always feel better for it afterwards and accomplished. And, you know, it just sets, I always do it in the morning. And I think it just sets my day at the right tone. And I also think, you know, I got through that workout. I'm not going to sit down and have this, you know, candy bar or whatever it is, because I work too hard to then go and counteract it with this stupid treat. So yeah,
exactly. And the way your life is, I feel like if you put it in the evening, it wouldn't always be a priority. Things would come up that you wouldn't be able to get to it. So I think that's good for a lot of people too. Like put it when you know you have time and you can schedule it in, as opposed to I'll get around to it if I need to, because that never happens.
Yes, I do it in the first possible period of my day that I can fit it in, because I mean, I do like to walk my kids to school, and there's things I like to do, but I'm a bit flexible too. And so I know that if it gets to be 5 o'clock, there'll be 8 million things that I need to do or can do or want to do that are going to take over.
Yeah, for sure. Now, were there any results or benefits that you achieved that you weren't expecting?
I think for me, I think the big one is sleep. I had a hard time going to bed earlier. That was another one. Getting me to do Carrie workouts and going to bed earlier were my biggest things. But I think I used to go to bed, I wasn't too late, but probably just after 11. And now I really do try for just after 10. And I would say by 10:30, I'm up.
I think she's frozen.
I'm in bed
Oh.
most days. So I think, hello? I don't know what just
Yes,
happened there.
we're here. We're here.
Okay. Telling me my internet connection is unstable. So I think better sleep was a great offshoot of probably a lot of things. I don't think it was just the time I was going to bed. I think it was the water I was drinking and not eating past 7 o'clock and things that help your body kind of start to wind down and feel good. But the sleep was a good bonus in my life.
Yeah. And so often it's like I have so much to do that I can't go to bed at 10 o'clock. But when you just shift those things on, how can I get those things done, but still get to bed at 10 o'clock, your whole body changes, right? Like if we're sleep deprived, there's a lot that our body won't do. So, and I feel like a lot of people are sleep deprived, but don't really know it. Because you think 11 o'clock's not that late, but it is if you're doing it night after night after night after night, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. Now, what would you say to someone who's considering reaching out to me about the program, but they're a little skeptical themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said before, there's never the perfect time to devote a lot of time to yourself. I mean, I am a mom of 2 young kids. I have a full-time job. I have a side business. I have a mother who needs me. I mean, I have all these things, and I'm at that age. I think a lot of Carrie's clients are at the same kind of, I'm 45 years old. I think that taking the time you need for yourself is never easy. It's never the number one thing that we do. We all are so many different roles. But I mean, you can't be the person you need to be for all the people in your life if you're suffering yourself. And for me, it just took me a while to get there, and to realize that me not being happy makes me less patient with my children. It makes me, less productive at work. All the things that, matter and that I take seriously are affected by my own health. So putting my health first for that period of time. And then again, learning a lot of, I don't know if habits is probably the right word, learning a lot of habits in that 3 months that I still do today. Makes it got easier, right? It was overwhelming the first couple of weeks, but because I've always eaten dairy and love, things like that. So things were a bit overwhelming for a little bit, but I knew that, right? I knew that, whenever you're trying to better yourself in a big way, it's going to be, but it's never a perfect time. And you just have to decide that you are worth it and that you need to be your best self for all the other people that you take care of and love.
Yes, for sure. Now there's one thing I wanted to touch on a little bit that I don't think we even brought in, but it was a big part of your skepticism was, I have a major social life and how am I going to do this around my social life? So could you touch a little bit about, the changes that you had to make, and could you do it? And what is it like now?
Yes. So I do have I have lots of plans all the time. And I felt like I'd given them up for such a long time already because of COVID. So when I started in September, I mean, it's hard to remember where were we at with this pandemic, but then in September, things were pretty good. Kids were all back in school. There was no Omicron yet. It was a good time. So a lot of my friends were turning 40 and having parties. And honestly, when I signed up for these 90 days, I charted the seven events that were I had to go to, I wanted to go to, and they stressed me out. And I was like, how am I going to do it? So I do drink socially regularly. And so that was a big one. I'm a wine drinker generally, but so I didn't not drink any alcohol during this. I know Carrie would say, we're not supposed to. However, I made it clear with Carrie that for me to be successful, I needed to figure out how to still socially drink sometimes and be on the program. Right. So I switched to gin and water and fresh squeezed lemon juice. And I would take, I mean, this is crazy, but I would take, one of these. I would take like my Conjako with me to a party, and I would have my 3 ounces that I was allowing myself of gin, and I would fill it up with water, and then I would add a squeezed lemon, and that's what I had for the night. And then I would also drink water while I was there, and I felt like I was drinking without clearly drinking as much as I would have, and not making those poor choices as far as alcohol goes. So I still did do it. But I definitely approached it a lot differently. Yeah.
I think I remember you saying one time that you felt better the next day.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. We
Yeah,
can all associate, that.
right?
feeling.
Like you're like, oh my gosh, I can get so much more done now because I didn't drink all night or whatever. So like the whole point of that was that you have a very heavy social network, right? And for you, it was, I don't want to not go out for dinner. I don't want to not drink. So how can I do this program and still do this? And I'm going to say we navigated it quite well, right?
Yes, we did.
Like you're able to.
It took thought, right? I mean, that's the thing. You can't just run out the door and be like, I'll eat what's there and I'll see how this goes, right? Yes. It was like, no, I'm going to make sure I go with a full stomach if it's a party, and I'm going to bring my drink. And if it's dinner, I mean, it's amazing. Like I never went to a restaurant where there wasn't something that I could have and feel good about. I mean, restaurants are pretty versatile now, and so many people have so many, intolerances, etc. So that the restaurant part, which was minimal, but the restaurant part was not a problem. It was more the drinking, because it's just, for me, it's a social thing to do. And I knew I wouldn't be successful if I just like went cold turkey for 3 months. That wouldn't have worked for me. So yes, we did. I negotiated with Carrie.
And you're definitely not alone in that. There are some people that come in and that's a huge deal, right? But it's not about what I was teaching you was that this is just the ideal, and how, if you want to feel 100%, this is the ideal, but there is still life along the way, right? Like we're coming up to a holiday weekend. I'm sure there's going to be foods that we're not normally eating, but it's how to navigate around it and how to navigate that social life. So you're not enclosed in your house all the time, because who wants to do that? And how can I live this life and make this a lifestyle and keep the weight off? So I'm assuming that you've done that quite well. Yes. And yeah, you were able to navigate everything. Awesome. So thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. We will chat with someone else soon.
All right. Bye. Thanks, Carrie.